Hello guys, Fantasy Fiction here today, and today we're going to talk about figurative language and the issues with it. To give you a hint, if you are guessing upon what the issue with figurative language would be, um, the Kleenex, like a white dove, flew across the room as Jolana failed to throw it all the way into the trash can. The poor birdie missed its nest with its other little babies down in. Yeah, so figurative language. What's the issue? Too much. There's way too much figurative language. And where does this issue come from? This issue comes from the fact that no one knows how to use it properly. So, figurative language is not meant to be something that makes your book pretty and beautiful. It's not meant to be used every minute of the day. It's meant to be kept locked up tight so that when it's time to pull it out during a very tough scene, you can, and you can use foreshadowing. If I was going to use figurative language, I wouldn't use it to talk about something that's not a big deal in the book. So, like a character giving another character a hug. If that never happens, and this is a sad moment, or a really happy moment, that's different. But if this character, every time he sees this other character, gives him a hug all the time, I wouldn't start going off on, and like a Christmas tree, he embraced his fellow birdie friend, and I would keep it down. So, to give you a good example of figurative language, I've written one, but figurative language. So basically, when you're using it, just keep that in mind. You want to use it at the correct moment. So, if I was going to give an example, I would say that it would be like this. We ascended the flight of stairs to find ourselves in a large rectangular room with a football bed on one side and a clear circular skylight in the other. As I viewed the room, I felt a deep despair trickling down my spine like water from a sink whose last user failed to fully down. The reason this is a good place to use figurative language is because sorry, I'm still getting over the cold. Not only is it a moment that you would want to point out to the reader as, okay, check this out, notice this character feels despair when he walks into the room. Check that out, notice that, notice that. It's also a place where it's not just despair, it's deep despair, for one thing, and for two, you can tell how deep it is just by the fact that it trickled down his spine like a leaky faucet. So you want to use it in a place where you can't describe something. That's a very good place to use it when something's hard to describe but you can feel it. So like love, I guess. You could use figurative language to talk about love. A lot of people do that because love, you can't describe it. A feeling that just feels weird, like butterflies in my stomach. That is a good one because that's what it feels like when you're nervous. Like dragons stomping in my head. That's my own creation, but that's another good one. Stuff like that. You want to use it to describe something that you can't normally describe. Number two, you want to use it in intense moments, but you don't want it to be like you have to understand this in order to move on. You want it to be a little hint at foreshadowing, maybe, or something like that. So, in an intense moment, let's say it's the setting is Vietnam, the war, and there's an infantry, or a group of soldiers stationed in the beautiful woods. And here they are sitting here. All was quiet, right? And all was quiet, nothing moved. The palms were still. When are palm trees ever still? Especially queen palms. Queen palm trees are never still. You could have everything else in the world is still. And this queen palm, that one little branch, will be swaying in the wind because they're made to pick up on wind. The palms were still. That is a great way to describe it because you can say all is quiet and then back it up with a figurative language. I wouldn't say that's necessarily a metaphor or simile, but it's saying something because you don't necessarily know there are palms there. You could be looking at actual palms, but or maybe another good way to use that metaphor, you could say, I finished my meditation, and when I opened my mind, I felt nothing in my head. Everything was just a simple quietness, as if there were no voices, there was no stress, and my head felt clear as if it had been given glasses. There's one. Nothing was of concern at the moment. I was in extreme bliss. The palms were still. There's two. You have two similes, two examples of figurative language in there, and you don't have to understand them in order to go on. That's the importance of figurative language. So a lot of times people will place figurative language in a place where it's important, and they don't paraphrase. That's another important thing. You have to like retell it. You have to retell it. All was quiet. The palms were still. Not just the palms were still, because, well, what palms? Unless that's a common phrase. So, like that. Basically, that's how you should use figurative language. Figurative language is a tough thing because you want to use it. You got to be somewhat artsy craftsy with your book. You got to be artsy fartsy with your book. But figurative language, it's one of the tougher ones because when you use it, you have to be careful. And this is why, because the thing is, figurative language is meant to be the best figurative language I've ever seen is when you're reading a book, an intense moment happens, everything's so simple, and you glide right over the metaphor, or you glide right over the simile, or whatever it is. You glide right over it, and you just keep on reading right after, and you're thinking about, oh my gosh, what could happen? Wow, your eyes are following the words, whatever they are. And then on your second reread, because that's what makes a book seem so simple. And then it's like, oh my gosh, it was so simple, but it had such a great ending. And then you go back, you read it again, and you go, oh my gosh, that book was so, not simple. I don't know how I didn't see that. Oh my gosh, how did I not see that coming? See what I mean? You have to be clever. So, like I said, anything works. That's the motto here. That's the main rule of writing. But figurative language, know when to use it. Don't use it all the time. Use it in the moments when it's intense and right after you've stated it. State it in layman's terms so that all your readers understand. You want to include all of them. They bought the book for a story, not for a metaphor. So include all of them, but then use figurative language that maybe hints at some foreshadowing. Maybe two boys are sitting there and they're having a moment. They're like maybe 10 and 9 or whatever, and they're sitting there and one of them's crying and the other one's holding the one that's crying, and maybe you could say they held, it was a sad moment. Weeping, Jared held, I guess, Jackson in his arms. It was a moment of despair, but at least there was someone there to comfort them. Like brothers, like brothers, they were there the whole night, holding each other in such a sweet embrace, or something like that. And then Turns out later they are brothers. See what I mean? Foreshadowing. They didn't know they were brothers. Here they are holding each other, and I quote, like brothers, and then they find out they are brothers. That's the thing. You have to foreshadow. You have to foreshadow as to what happened. Use music. Say that they walk in the bar called, say maybe there's a story of, yeah, now I'm going on to foreshadowing, so never mind. Yeah, so know when to use metaphors, know when to use similes. Similes are not as tough as metaphors to decrypt, but they're tough. Metaphors should be quick, and they should be very short, and it should be something the reader passes over with his eyes. So after an intense moment, when the reader's, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen next, put it right after that, hiding right behind that wall. So yeah, I like to view intense moments as like cover almost, and then the little figurative language afterwards. It's like a soldier, you know. And then later, when they re-look at it, they're like, "Oh my gosh, look at all the guys I missed! Wow!" So yeah, there you go. All right, I hope this video was helpful. For those writers out there, I hope you learned something, and if not, I hope that you were at least inspired. If you thought I did a horrible job, make your own video. Let's hear your take, because after all, I might have not covered something. If there's anything for you viewers want me to cover, put it in the comments section, and if there's anything you want me to do different, tell me. All right, because I can't know if you don't tell me. So happy writing, have a good day, and fantasy out.